listener. My name is Chuck Wooden. I'll be your host. I'm joined by my co-host, Donna Dunyan. Donna?
Hi, good evening.
Yeah. Donna, we've got someone here for the very first time.
Yes, another new guest.
Which is always good. We have a lot of return guests, but it's always great to get more exposure out there for our new guests. And these folks are from Racecars for a Cause. Actually, one individual here, Kat, is one of our camera people, and it's great to have her on this side for this show.
We'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it's going to be great. So we have Jeff Archambault. Did I say that right, Jeff?
Yes.
He's the founder and president, and Katrina Kat Zigwolf, she's the veteran liaison for Racecars for a Cause. So we've got a lot to go over today. There's a lot of information, which is great. Tell us a little about yourself.
So I'm a native Cape Codder from Massachusetts, born and raised there, and then moved to South Shore, and been living there for quite a few years now, and kind of travel all around doing a lot of different things. Been involved in law enforcement for 27 years now, so retirement is just right around the corner, knock on wood. And through that, again, the traveling thing and many passions kind of came along with that career. So one of them was motorsports. A lot of things, 25 years of motorsports involvement, just as a spectator, never as a driver, but loved going to races all across the U.S. and just loved the feel of being at a racetrack. And then through that, eventually went to the Skip Barber School of Racing here at Lime Rock Park in Connecticut. Yeah. Put myself through the 3-day school just to get a little more involved in the driving aspect of it. But then took my first step towards doing an actual track day in my car, and then I was hooked. That was it. I just wanted to be on the racetrack all the time, driving around like a maniac, and having some fun.
Did you get hooked going to the police academy and doing all the maneuvers?
Absolutely. And funny you asked that, Chuck, because now part of my job with the state police is I actually do driver training. So all of the local police, the state police, sheriff's departments, even on a federal level, actually come to us and do all their driver training with us. So I've been doing that for 7 years now. So it still keeps me in the driver's seat, just in a different capacity.
You're in your glory.
Yes, yes.
It's like a kid going to an amusement park. I mean, just driving around and
I have a 20-year-old that I may need to get you connected with.
Kat.
Yes. Good evening, Chuck.
Well, welcome. I mean, I'm used to looking out, and it's great to have you sitting right here.
Thank you.
You are the veteran liaison.
Yes.
Veteran, obviously.
Yes. I'm Katrina Zigwolf. I was in the U.S. Army from 88 to 97. Started as a German linguist back in the Cold War. And when East Germany went away, so did my job. So reclassed into electronics, and at the end did a year running the arms room and forward support 2nd Infantry Korea. So a little bit of everything. I was on the reactionary force there. So flipped that into a job at Pratt & Whitney doing instrumentation and facilitation because I knew how to run things. Yeah. And so they said, you can run all the labs, great. And became a firefighter using all the practical skills and sense of urgency that the Army imparts to us under duress.
I actually, you say that, I saw a picture the other day.
Oh, yeah.
With your turnout gear on.
Oh, yep. Looks like a promo, but it was actually taken at Walmart, so, never know. Yeah.
Well, Kat, it's thank you very much on behalf of the viewers, on behalf of all of us here. We appreciate.
I also have a muscle car, so I caught the bug, so I got a Dodge Charger with the heavies. So I'll be chasing him soon.
So that's why you're here, having fun also.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And Jeff, thank you for everything you do. I'm retired from a segment of law enforcement myself here in Connecticut. So I appreciate what you do. So do the viewers. Yeah. So let's get into this. There's a lot to cover. We want to know all about the organization.
Okay, so right from the beginning, again, going back to the motorsports thing, 2015, I really Actually, it's 2014, I started to get the sense of wanting to do something a little bit more with what was going on in my life at the time. And going to the racetrack was fun, satisfying, but it was just self-satisfying. And started thinking to myself, how do I maybe kind of share that passion and that joy and that excitement on the racetrack with others? So it was late 2014, kind of formulated that idea about, okay, how do we start reaching out to other people? And I wasn't quite sure who to reach out to at that point. And then I have an immediate family member who was U.S. Army, who was deployed in Afghanistan. Combat injured, got flown back here to the U.S. Young man, a very active participant in high school sports, and was a hockey coach for a youth hockey team in the state of New York. And basically got back here and was told essentially, you're just never going to be able to play sports again. And it's just one of those things where it kind of hit me really hard, because I thought to myself, how do you say to somebody, thank you for the service, but you're not going to be able to enjoy any of your passions in life anymore. Yeah. And that's going to be devastating at 26 years old to come home to that. So then I started kind of gravitating towards veterans causes. And I thought to myself, all right, why don't we try to get veterans out on the track with us to really enjoy some track time, and hopefully make it a very unique experience for veterans. Doing a little more research, I kind of found that there really wasn't a whole lot of organizations doing that, and just sort of put it together and said, you know what, let's just run with it. So in 2015, I applied for my 501c3, the nonprofit status, to the government. Did that all on my own. I didn't have the money to hire a lawyer at the time, so I just said, well, I'll go through all the paperwork and try to make it work. And then 2 months later, I got my letter of approval from the IRS, so we started the nonprofit, and we just kind of took off from there.
That's great. That's great. I mean, it's got to start somewhere.
Yes.
And where it really starts from is the passion that you had.
Yes.
Without the passion, with the passion, there's nothing stopping you.
Yep, absolutely.
What are some of the challenges you're finding with running the program?
There's a lot. It basically, so it's motorsports again, so motorsports not the cheapest thing in the world to try and tackle on your own. When I started this in 2015, I started with a very old BMW car that I kind of gutted the interior and made into a semi-race car. The first event I did was in July of 2015 at Lime Rock Park, again here in Connecticut, and we took 5 veterans from Project New Hope, based out of Worcester, Mass, and we brought them to the racetrack. And I was a solo act at the time. I didn't have any staff. It was just me kind of trying to make the event happen and kind of winging it, essentially, not realizing how many logistics were really involved in doing something on that scale. Even though it's only 5 veterans, there's a lot of planning to go into it, obviously. There's obviously safety factors, there's downtime. You don't want a lot of downtime so they're not getting bored. But it was a very eye-opening experience, and it was successful. We had a lot of fun with it. I have a friend that runs track day services, so he very nicely donated that entire day to us.
Nice.
Free of charge, which was great. And so a lot of learning steps from that, but then it came down to, and this is probably always going to be the biggest thing for us, is budget. Budget is a big thing for us. We are a small organization. I kind of pride myself on keeping it small. I didn't want it to get too big and get too overwhelming. So, but with that comes a lot of budget problems. So that's probably the biggest issue for us.
Yeah, we didn't mention this earlier, but I run a nonprofit here in Bristol too, so I feel you. I know all those pains.
Absolutely.
Kat, as a veteran liaison, what's your responsibilities? What do you do?
So Jeff came to me one time, the first time I went there. It was all I could do to just get myself there. I had severe anxiety, I had spinal injury, TBI, all these other things that are working against me. And I just said, I have to go there. It was a mutual friend of ours that invited me, informed me about it. So I showed up, and this was 6 years ago. And made it there finally. I was just maxed out. Got into the first car that was there, and by the first corner, we were doing 85 into the hairpin turn, and all my stress fell out the window. And by doing 145 in the straightaway, I was just nothing but a ball of fun and adrenaline and excitement and everything. And so I got to the end of this, and because we only had about 16 people show up, 16 veterans to do the ride along. So he says to me, you want to go to the next one? I'm like, yeah. So, and then he's like, you want to go on the next one? This one's open. I'm like, yeah. So
Absolutely.
Corvette, Porsche, Ferrari, whatever they had there, I jumped in. So I was grinning. My face hurt. I was grinning so hard that this was awesome. And I had struggled with depression. I was on the bubble on a lot of bad things, and I was in a real bad place. So I'm like, how can I help make this bigger? How can I support this? This needs to keep happening over and over again. If not, we're the reason that I get to keep riding in cars. So he says, I can get the sponsors, I can get the drivers, I can get the track days. He says, I can't get the veterans. Yeah. So I said, and I understood, because all the stressors that we have to deal with. If we have disabilities, there's so many logistics. I can only stand this long. I can only sit this way. I can only talk for so many minutes. I can only, with the TBI, sometimes we have cognitive issues or vertigo or things like that. So there's so many reasons why we have all these great opportunities people want to share with veterans, and it's just wonderful, and I highly encourage it. But the veterans get overwhelmed. We get out the door, sit in the car, and we're like, nope. and we don't go, and we miss out, and we can't capitalize on all that wonderful gratitude and energy that people have been putting forth to us. So I said, all right, challenge accepted, and started hitting the vet centers and reaching out on Facebook and hitting up all my friends and saying, tell everybody you know, we need to come to the track and do this. So the next time, the first time I was there, we had 65 people RSVP'd and like 16 showed up. So the next time I brought 8. So I said, all right, I'm at least 50% better than we were doing last time. And then we just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And COVID clobbered us, but we had a really successful event in August.
Yes.
So I can't remember the numbers. Maybe you can speak on that.
So one of the tracks we do visit is Palmer Motorsports Park in Palmer, Massachusetts, and they have been amazingly supportive of the cause.
Oh, yeah.
Our friend Al Sandy, who is sort of the track manager there, invites us. We've been going there for 5 years now. But they will actually, on their own dime, they'll actually come out and do radio ads. They'll do newspaper ads, magazine ads. They really try to get the word out there about the event. And we had 123 people come out to that event in August at Palmer Motorsports Park.
123 veterans?
So the way we break it down is veterans, it's a family-friendly environment, so we encourage veterans to bring family members. Children have to be 18 or older to be on track with us, but if they're not 18 or older, they can still come to the track, listen to the race cars, sit in the race cars, have some fun still. So of the 123, 67 were veterans and then family members.
That's
in addition to that, yes, which was incredible.
Awesome.
So that's our biggest one to date, and that was post-COVID. And like Ed said, COVID, I think with a lot of nonprofits, obviously with businesses, and it was a big tragedy for a lot of people. Yeah. So I don't feel comfortable saying, it hit us so hard because we couldn't have a fundraiser or we couldn't have an event when there was so much more going on with COVID. But at the same time, it did really almost put us on the brink of extinction. We had a race car that was donated to us back in 2019, which is amazing. Gentleman by the name of Alan Wiltzig in New York found out about what we were doing, and he is a motorsports person, but very, very generous guy. And he got wind of what we were doing and invited me out to his place and said he's gonna basically it's a garage full of retired race cars in his garage and motorcycles, and he said, would this particular car work for you? Because our goal at the time was to get a race car just for us, so we could actually be one-on-one with veterans in the race car. And he showed me this amazing car, and it was based on a Porsche 962 race car. And I said, that's great, but I said, Alan, I don't think we can afford that. We have no budget. He goes, no. This one's getting donated to you. It's from us. We're going to donate this to the cause. And of course, my jaw hit the ground. I couldn't believe what was happening at that point. And that was, I think, 4 years into our existence. Never in 4 years that I think somebody would say, hey, have a race car and have fun. And of course, as sort of misfortune would have it, COVID strikes in the spring of 2020, and we were not able to really use the race car effectively. Being a race car, obviously the mechanics of a race car, all the things you have to replace, such as tires, brakes, fluids, engine service, stuff like that, it all comes at a cost.
Maintenance, general maintenance.
Exactly, and we had some great people working with us that would take care of the car for us, but in the end it was too much. And since there was no public gatherings, there was no fundraising for us, and we sadly had to sell the race car just to make ourselves, stay alive.
Yeah. Sold the car for gas money.
Essentially. So we have a board of directors, obviously, for the nonprofit, and it came down to a vote, and we said, we have a truck and trailer and the race car, and we said, do we keep the race car and somehow try to get it to events without a truck and trailer, or do we sell the race car, keep the truck and trailer, and at least we can get all of our equipment and our displays and everything to a racetrack and let other people do the driving for us. So unanimously we voted we had to sell the race car. It was the right thing to do. Kind of a side story, it got sold to a U.S. Army veteran who was local. He's only 20 minutes from my house, which kind of works out in our favor too.
Maybe he can bring us to the track.
And he actually said, when you have events, we'd love to come out and drive your car at these events. So it kind of worked out in the end.
That's good.
Yes. Yep.
Just out of curiosity, how did the donor feel? I mean, did you talk to him?
Yes, that was my biggest concern. I had said basically, Alan, here's the situation. We love the car. It was extremely generous. We can't thank you enough. But if we keep the car with no events going on right now, it's just sitting there gathering dust, and we have to pay for things. We have to get an engine refresh every single year. And I said, we just can't afford that if we're not doing events and we're not having fundraisers. And he was unbelievable about it. He said, I completely understand. He said, do what you have to do to survive, which was the greatest advice we could have got. So we sold the car, but we're still up and running. And that's the biggest thing I think for us, is that we're still doing events.
For somebody that would go out of their way to donate a vehicle like that to you, I expected that.
Yes, amazing, down-to-earth guy, just incredible person. Yep.
He held a fundraiser at his facility, has his own track and his own museum, and brought McLaren emptied out their entire showroom just for us and one other organization. We split the fundraisers also for veterans. Wow. So just amazing guy. Highest praise.
Yeah, I want to go back a second. You talked about the impact it's had on you. What's some of the feedback you've gotten from other veterans about the ride-along experience?
They love it. These guys show up, and a lot of them haven't smiled in years. They've been up against the mental, the physical, the emotional, trying to re-enter back into polite society when we're not polite. It's a bit awkward. So when we get to show up on the track, I mean, one of the things to realize is in the military, you have what's called mandatory fun days, and we're required to show up, and that requires usually a week's worth of work detail to get prepped, and then you have to do the setup, you have to do all the paperwork for if you want a vehicle. There's red tape and inspections, and then when you're done, you're out there all day for some dog and pony show, and then you have to do the tear down and take out the trash and pick up cigarette butts and everything. So to show up for this event, and literally all we have to do is show up, put on a helmet, sit down, and go fast. and they literally do all the work for us. It's like somebody saying, I got next watch, brother. You are officially on R&R status, effective immediately. And it takes a moment to process, and it was a real eye-opener because I never realized how far apart my life had gotten from just doing fun things and just being lighthearted, because in the military you are 100% 24/7 all day every day. And so to have this available to us, we got treated like officers. Show up, sit down, and leave. And it's that level of gratitude is so humbling. So, and the other thing too is when these guys get out of these cars, they're rocking. They're adrenalized. They're grinning. They're all this stuff. Not one of them gets out of this car to a certainty. Gets out and says, "Wow, the blues, man. It's really eating my lunch today." Yeah. So they get out of there and they're like, "Wow, that was friggin' awesome." They're just alive. You feel that life force again.
They forget about everything and they're just having fun.
Yeah, there's a part of us that if you're down for 10 or 15 years with an injury, you think this is either dead or dormant and you're never going to see it again. So when all of a sudden you're rocking, you feel alive again. You're like, I forgot what that feels like. And you go out and you want to do some more stuff. You're like, get back into the land of the living. So, if somebody just said, you know what, I'm good for today. And so I don't read about him in the obituaries tomorrow. It's like, thank you. Thank you for bringing us back to life. That is in the best and fastest way possible.
You know, your answer and your enthusiasm, the next question, I think you pretty much answered it, is what do you get out of this?
Kat nailed it. That's it every time. We actually just did some in-car video of a few of our events, the most recent one in August at Palmer Motorsports. And I tell you, it was a brilliant idea. We had the little camera set up in car, and the reactions that you see when they not only just first get in the car, but then all of a sudden they like Kat said, you hit that first corner or that straightaway, and then suddenly it's beaming ear to ear. And for me, that does it every single time.
Yeah.
One of the few veterans that got to go out in the race car, I went to a Porsche day at Palmer Motorsports, and again, because of COVID, we wanted to keep it to just one person. So this one Vietnam veteran was at the event, and we had arranged it that he'd be there. It was sort of a surprise for him to get in the car, and we took him out in the race car, and again, you had that reaction, but the biggest thing for me was at the end of the lap, you can see it's just kind of coming in, going down the pit straight and kind of slowing down, but he just reaches over and just grabs my hand. It's just a big handshake and a little bit of a, kind of knuckles and stuff, and that felt great to me. It's those kind of reactions we really, really strive for, and it just comes naturally. It's not, it's not scripted. I think the biggest thing, and Kat can probably can attest to this, but we don't have schedules with what we do on the track day, so there's nothing, it's not predetermined. It's not like you have to be at this spot at this certain time or do this or do that. It's show up, sign in, go pick your favorite car, and go for a ride. We only do 2 to 3 laps per participant, and that's mostly because of sometimes motion sickness can be an issue, but also if you're doing more laps than that, it can get tiring, not just for the driver, but as a passenger also. So it's 2 or 3 spirited laps, not racing laps. We don't want to scare them. That's the biggest thing. We're not, we have an army of volunteer drivers that come out for us, and thank God we do. They come out on their own time with their own vehicles. They volunteer to drive all the veterans all day long, and they never take a break, which is amazing. And some of those race cars, we have actual non-street legal race cars that come out to the events, and your temperatures in there could be running 100, 110 degrees on a hot summer day. And once you get moving, obviously, with the wind coming through, it's great. But they're in there for 4, 6, 8 hours at a time, and they just keep right on going. They never take a break.
Yeah.
And they act like they're grateful to us for showing up, and we're like, dude, this is so much, and they're like, no, thank you. And so it takes a moment to process.
We got about 2 minutes left. I just want to share something with you. Back in my past life, I'm a retired lieutenant with corrections here in the state, and I worked closely. I ran a range for the southern half of the state for 4.5 years, and worked close with that local PD. And one of the guys came up to pick me up for lunch. Call came in. I'm in a passenger seat, and all of a sudden we're racing down to the south end of town. And even when you don't think things bother you, when you're in that passenger seat and you're just shredding the needle as you do all the time, it's an adrenaline rush that I never forgot.
Stays with you.
I know we're getting low on time, but let's quickly tell everybody.
We've only got like a minute.
Oh, well, can you tell them the website where they can go and find out more information?
Go to www.cars4acause. So that's CARS, the number 4.
It's on the screen right now.
acause.co. Make sure it's .co, not .com. And everything is on there. So please take a look through. We run the full gamut of social media. And honestly, the more people we get to follow us or like us or whatever it might be, the bigger it is for us. The more word of mouth gets out there, the more veterans we can get to events.
Yeah, if you get on Facebook with us, you will get notifications for events, so you'll be able to blast those out there. It was
an absolute pleasure. It was great having you. This was something that I'm sure our viewers are going to love.
I hope so.
And I'd love to have you back again.
And we'll see you guys at the track, I hope.
Yeah, I'll come out.
Come on down.
I'll bring
with that being said, as everything else, it
went by quick.
It's come to an end. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best. We will see you again. Can't wait to have you back. Thanks to the viewers for watching. That's it for the Veterans Corner. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Sometimes life just happens. Don't worry. Farmington Motorsports will get you back on the road and at a fair price. From towing to tires, emissions to transmissions.
Our ASC certified techs do it all.
Farmington Motorsports is a family-run business. We're a Napa Auto Center and AAA approved. We work on all makes and models from preventative maintenance to major repairs.
And every repair is backed by our 2-year, 24,000-mile nationwide warranty.
When life happens to you, don't worry. Farmington Motorsports.